In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself. And after what you've gone through, if you haven't done that by now, it ain't gonna never happen.
These legends are over 80 and still look better than people half their age. From Morgan Freeman becoming a beekeeper at 81 to Charles S. Dutton shoveling manure on his own farm, we dug deep into how these 15 black legends are still crushing it in their 80s and 90s. You won't believe who's the oldest living football star turned minister, and what he still does every day to stay sharp. Let's start with the voice that literally sounds like God himself. 1. Morgan Freeman.
Like most rides, we ended up where we began. Still, it reminded us who we are, what we have. It was worth it, if only for that.
Morgan Freeman is one of those actors who just gets better with age. Everyone knows his voice. It's deep, smooth, and calm, like the voice of God. But not many people know that Morgan actually didn't become a big star until he was in his 50s. Yeah, he was acting before that, but he didn't get those iconic roles like in Driving Miss Daisy or The Shawshank Redemption until later in life. Before Hollywood, he actually served in the U.S. Air Force. He worked as a radar technician, which is pretty cool because he wanted to fly planes, but ended up fixing them instead. Even after getting famous, Morgan stayed super down to earth. He's not the kind of celebrity who's always in the news. He lives on a ranch in Mississippi and does normal things like gardening and taking care of his animals. He even turned part of his land into a bee sanctuary to help save bees. That's one of the most unique things about him. He literally became a beekeeper at 81. A lot of people don't know that Morgan had a really bad car accident in 2008. His car flipped and he had to be airlifted to the hospital. He broke his shoulder and arm, and it left permanent nerve damage in his left hand. That's why he sometimes wears a black compression glove in public. It helps with the pain from his condition, which is fibromyalgia. Even with that, he didn't stop working. He still makes movies, narrates documentaries, and goes to events. What's even more interesting is that Morgan learned how to fly planes when he was 65. He didn't let age stop him from doing what he wanted. He also loves blues music and co-owns a blues club. And he supports a bunch of charities, especially ones related to hurricane relief and education. At 88 years old, Morgan Freeman is still going strong. 2. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby is one of the most famous names in comedy and television history, but there are a lot of things about him that people don't really talk about. Most people remember him from The Cosby Show, where he played the perfect dad, Dr. Huxtable. But before all that, he started out doing stand-up comedy in small clubs and then slowly made his way into TV and film. What's interesting is that even while he was doing comedy, he went to school and earned a doctorate in education. His PhD wasn't just for show. His dissertation was actually about how his cartoon Fat Albert could be used to help teach kids better in school. That's not something you hear every day. Bill was also really into jazz music. He could play the drums and the bass, and he even hosted the Playboy Jazz Festival for decades. His love for jazz and African American culture showed up in the way he collected art, too. He and his wife owned over 300 pieces of African American art, and some of it was shown in a special exhibit at the Smithsonian. That's a side of him most people don't know. He was super into preserving culture and history. Now, of course, Cosby's life took a huge turn with all the legal issues and accusations that came out. He was convicted in 2018, but got released in 2021 because the court said his trial violated his rights. After that, he pretty much disappeared from the spotlight. Most people thought he wouldn't last long after that, but he's still alive in 2025 at age 87. He's been living quietly at home with his family. He's also legally blind now, which happened even before he went to prison. 3. Billy D. Williams.
Like in Star Wars. When Luke, much like the two of you, wasn't the pilot of his own future, but he was a great pilot. He used to bullseye womp rats in his T-16 back home.
Billy D. Williams has always carried himself with a smooth, confident charm. But there's more to him than most people know. Born in Harlem in 1937, he was surrounded by creativity from an early age. His mom was an opera singer, and by the time he was 7, he'd already made his Broadway debut in The Firebrand of Florence, even though he admits the experience was boring for a kid. He later earned a painting scholarship to the National Academy of Design and won a prestigious Hall Garden Prize for painting in the mid-1950s, showing early on that his talents went far beyond acting. His journey into acting started as a practical way to support his art supplies, but it quickly became a passion. He trained under Sidney Poitier at the Harlem Actors Workshop and experimented with LSD in the 1960s, not for thrills, but to get inside of myself, as he put it. What most fans don't know is that he did nude modeling for art students while studying life drawing in art school. He painted, he modeled, he acted, and he turned that creative intensity into a long-term career. Billy Dee's memoir reveals stories that surprise even longtime admirers. In the 1960s, he became depressed after a Broadway run closed, even contemplating self-harm because he felt his work and future were slipping away. That level of openness and vulnerability shows a side of him that most people never see. And yes, he once joked his way into being fired from a play by whispering a dirty joke on stage to Leslie Uggams. But he laughs about it now and says his friend James Baldwin thought it was hilarious. When it comes to looking good and staying alive at 88, Billy Dee takes care of himself in ways you wouldn't expect. 4. Garrett Morris.
Could you ask Betty to come in and help me trim the tree, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Garrett Morris is best known as one of the original stars of Saturday Night Live, but there's so much more to him than meets the eye. Born in 1937, he first made his mark as an actor, singer, and playwright in New York before ever stepping onto SNL's stage. He performed in musicals like Showboat and Porgy and Bess, and even wrote and produced plays focusing on black political themes, showing right away he was more than just a comedian. On Saturday Night Live, Garrett was part of the not ready for primetime players, and he brought a unique style to live sketch comedy. A fan favorite on Weekend Update, he was known for sharp wit and groundbreaking humor. But after SNL, he kept pushing himself. He appeared in TV series like The Jeffersons and Martin, and even voiced characters in animation and video games. His range goes from live musicals to voiceover, which is pretty impressive for someone in his late 80s. Physically, Garrett Morris looks great for 88 years old. He doesn't have a public fitness routine in magazines, but he's stayed active by continuing to work. He still acts, does voice work, and interacts with fans, which keeps him mentally sharp and physically alert. It's no secret that staying busy and engaged is a big part of staying healthy when you get older, and Garrett shows that by staying involved. Okay, that was wild, but wait till you hear about the actor who stayed calm by whispering dirty jokes on stage, and got fired for it. 5. Hal Williams.
Oh, whatever we do, you know that we do it together, wherever. Get in the car. Well, you never let me sing. Get in the car.
Hal Williams is one of those faces you've probably seen on TV hundreds of times, and yet there's a lot about him that most people don't know. Born in December 1938 in Columbus, Ohio, he moved around a bit as a kid before finding his path in acting. He didn't start on screen right away. In fact, he spent a chunk of time honing his craft in stage productions before heading to Hollywood. That theatrical training, quiet but steady, shaped his career more than people realize. On screen, he's remembered mostly for playing police officer Carter on sitcoms like 227 and Silver Spoons. But beyond those roles, he quietly took on drama too. One interesting thing people don't often mention is how he brings such a calm, steady presence to every show, like he's always almost meditating while delivering lines. That sense of centeredness probably comes from years on stage, where pacing and breathing matter a lot more. Physically, Hal looks great for an 86-year-old. You don't see fancy gym selfies or influencer workouts. Instead, his secret seems to be consistency. Acting demands standing for hours, hitting marks precisely, showing up on time. Every day is disciplined. That kind of day-to-day structure, coupled with the physical demands of shooting, naturally keeps him fit. Even now, he occasionally participates in charity events or appearances that involve some light walking or speaking on his feet. It's simple, sure, but it works. Health-wise, there's no sign of dramatic fitness regimens or strict diets. No press about juice cleanses or intense CrossFit sessions. Instead, friends say he's always consciously kept a balanced life, enough sleep, moderate eating, and a steady career. The kind of quiet control that shows up in his calm roles seems to be the same energy he carries in real life. 6. Felicia Rashad.
Oh, this one with this woman Tammy leaning across the engine.
Oh, I didn't even see Tammy there.
But Precious, what's wrong with your eyesight? How could you not see this woman who is hiding half the engine?
Felicia Rashad has always been so much more than self-harm Claire Huxtable self-harm, and at 76, there are some interesting things you might not know about her life and how she stays so vibrant. One key thing that shaped her quietly is her work in education. After years as a top Broadway and TV actress, in May 2021, she took on a huge role as Dean of Howard University's College of Fine Arts. She held that position until May 2024, helping mentor a new generation of black artists. That shows a huge side of her that doesn't make headlines. It takes stamina, planning, and real dedication. About how she keeps looking and feeling strong, she's actually been vegetarian since the early 1990s. That was confirmed all the way back in 1992 when the New York Times featured her in an article on healthy eating. Choosing plant-based food probably helped her keep her energy and glowing skin through years of Broadway and directing. Most people don't know she's the very first black actress to win a Tony Award for Best Actress in a Play. And she did it twice, first in 2004 for A Raisin in the Sun and again in 2022 for Skeleton Crew. That's huge, but she doesn't just act, she also directs. In 2014, she directed Fences at the Seattle Repertory Theater, and that role behind the curtain needs focus, getting long rehearsal days, and leadership energy. When it comes to routines, Felicia stays balanced by mixing meditation, nature time, and creativity. Though these were habits she talked about during the pandemic, they've stuck with her. She uses them to stay calm and focused. 7. Charles S. Dutton.
In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself. And after what you've gone through, if you haven't done that by now, it ain't gonna never happen.
Charles S. Dutton's life reads like a movie because it's so full of unexpected twists and raw honesty. Born in 1951 in Baltimore, he dropped out of school at 12 and got in trouble with the law pretty young. He even spent years in prison for manslaughter and weapons possession. That part of his life is not typically talked about in glowing celebrity articles, but it's real, and it shapes everything about how grounded and resilient he became. Instead of falling into despair, he asked the warden if he could start a drama group inside. That group changed his life. After he got out, he earned a drama degree at Towson State, and then went on to Yale School of Drama to get a master's in acting. He literally transformed his worst circumstances into a foundation for a brilliant career. If you watch Charles in movies like Rudy or in shows like Rock, you can see he has an inner strength that feels honed by real life. But the thing most people don't know is that he plays the trumpet. He picked it up for his first Broadway role in August Wilson's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and after just 5 weeks of lessons, critics said his playing was absolutely phenomenal, even though he jokes he got nervous when jazz legends like Dizzy Gillespie sat in the audience. That musical side of him shows he's not just about acting. He's about throwing himself into challenges and showing real dedication, no matter how late he started. Even now, well into his 70s, Charles stays surprisingly active. He owns a small farm in Maryland, a dream he chased since childhood. Around the farm, he's shoveling manure, taking care of goats, chickens, horses, and vegetables. It's by no means glamorous or easy, but it keeps him outside, flexible, and moving, more than most retired actors do. And during the grow season, he donates produce from his farm to churches and homeless shelters, turning his labor into community service. 8. Fred Williamson. Fred Williamson was born in Gary, Indiana in 1938, and most people know him as a big player in football and movies. But there's a lot about his life that doesn't get told. For example, he's not just a hammer from the Raiders or blaxploitation flicks. Fred earned an architecture degree at Northwestern University before he even played professionally, so he wasn't just about sports, he was about brains and planning too. That sharp architectural eye probably helped him later when he created his own production company, Po' Boy Productions, back in 1974. That move wasn't just about power, it was about control and creating opportunities for black actors and filmmakers. Football came after school. Fred played defensive back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Oakland Raiders, and Kansas City Chiefs. He was an AFL All-Star 3 times in a row and won a championship in 1966. But what most people don't know is that even after the NFL, he kept pushing to stay fit and flexible on his own terms. He didn't become a gym bro. Instead, he stayed sharp by embracing movement. He worked constantly, in front of and behind the camera, and moved his body in real everyday ways: sets, travel, long shoots, behind-the-scenes hustle. After football, he became an icon in blaxploitation cinema, starring in films like Black Caesar and The Legend of Nigger Charlie. Quentin Tarantino later called that film a true example of empowerment, saying it was one of the first movies showing a slave who fought back. Fred didn't just act, he shaped roles for black audiences that made a statement long before social justice became mainstream. Still today, at 87, people say he looks rugged and athletic, mainly because he never stopped being active. He's not chasing youth, he's respecting his body through real movement, walking, standing, producing, directing. The next guy went from prison to Yale to shoveling manure on his own farm. Talk about a comeback story. 9. J.A. Preston.
Okay, what you want, like some posters, music, poetry?
Anything. Just so long as you talk to the people in the language that they understand.
J.A. Preston, whose full name is James Allen Preston, is a clever actor born in Washington, D.C. in 1932. Most people remember him as Judge Randolph in A Few Good Men, but not a lot of folks know how he started acting kinda late. He was already 35 before he decided to pursue acting full-time. Before that, he earned a degree from North Carolina College and then slowly began doing theater and small guest roles on TV shows here and there. That means by the time he got onto shows like Hill Street Blues, he'd already been living and learning for years, and his life experience shows in the confidence and presence he brought on camera. Preston has this quiet strength in how he delivered lines, something he probably got from being older than most breakout actors. He wasn't always the leading man, but he showed up and took roles like a judge or military guy with real gravity. Probably because he'd lived enough to understand authority figures, peacemaking, or hard decisions. His grounded presence is one of the reasons Hollywood kept hiring him again and again. People don't talk much about how, at his age, he stayed such a calm and collected physical presence. He didn't show off muscles or gym selfies, but he did keep working steadily into his 70s, doing TV guest spots in Law & Order, Seinfeld, Martin, and playing military roles in Air Force One, roles that require good posture and discipline. On set, acting as a judge or general means sitting tall, speaking firmly, and being believable as someone in charge. That on-camera discipline adds up over decades to keep someone looking sharp. After his time on TV ended around 2006, he stepped back quietly from the spotlight. There aren't interviews about diet or gym routines, but colleagues and fans say he stayed steady, woke up, did scripted lines, posture, timing, breathing, all those basic actor habits that double as subtle exercise. Daily rehearsal, memorizing scenes, playing characters, these are mental workouts that help cognition, stress control, and general fitness. His calm, relaxed style comes from these healthy routines of rehearsal and performance. 10. Robert Hooks. Robert Hooks, born Bobby Dean Hooks in 1937, is one of those actors whose real life is way more interesting than any drama role he's played. He started in D.C. but jumped into acting as a kid. His first role was at 9 years old in The Pirates of Penzance. He and his siblings would help out on sharecropper farms in North Carolina to save money for school. Talk about a childhood that grounded him in real work before fame. His big break came on Broadway in A Raisin in the Sun, and he later replaced James Earl Jones in The Blacks. That success gave him experience and discipline. But the thing most people don't know is how much Robert dedicated himself to building community through theater. In the late 1960s, he co-founded the Negro Ensemble Company, NEC, in New York, and also started the DC Black Repertory Company. These places weren't just for actor training, they were safe spaces where black artists could learn, create, and find their voice during the Civil Rights era. He didn't stop there. He created the Inner Voices Prison Arts Program inside Lorton Prison in 1971, helping inmates find their voices through poetry and performance. One inmate even got his sentence commuted by President Ford after performing in a Christmas special. That shows Hooks's belief that art can literally save lives. Physically, Hooks stays active by virtue of his roles and mission. He doesn't hit the gym, but runs companies, oversees productions, travels to events, and speaks at schools. That daily hustle, planning, travel, public speaking, is a full-time cardio of the mind-body. Plus, producing a play isn't a desk job. There are rehearsals, planning sessions, running crews. It keeps you standing and moving. His lifelong physical activity is hidden but real. 11. Rosie Greer.
I'll lead you through the country of my people, but no farther. And once we have reached its boundaries, I owe you no debt.
Rosie Greer is more than just a football legend. He's a gentle giant who's done a ton outside of the field, and most people don't know half of it. Born in 1932 in Georgia, he was a powerful defensive tackle in the NFL for the New York Giants and Los Angeles Rams, and was part of the famous fearsome foursome. He even won the NFL championship in 1956 and played 11 seasons, but that's just the beginning of his story. After football, Rosie surprised everyone by working as a bodyguard for Robert Kennedy during the 1968 presidential campaign. On the night of the assassination, he guided Ethel Kennedy out of harm's way and literally wrestled the gunman, taking the weapon with his bare hands. That moment shows so much about his character. It's wild and it's real. But he didn't stop learning and growing. In the early 1970s, he became an ordained Protestant minister. He then started American Neighborhood Enterprises, a nonprofit supporting inner-city youth with housing and training programs. He's also on the board of the Milken Family Foundation and used his platform to speak and spread hope. He's still alive in 2025, the oldest living former NFL player, and somehow looks and moves with energy, even at 93. Here's a part no one expects. Rosie loves needlepoint, crochet, and macrame. He published a book called Rosie Greer's Needlepoint for Men in 1973. Picture a giant football player calmly stitching patterns. It's so poetic and real. That creative habit may help keep his mind steady and hands nimble to this day. 12th, Demond Wilson.
Now, on the way home, I passed something they call a breathmobile. Now, you know what a breathmobile is?
Yeah, that's something you spray in your mouth so your friends don't turn away.
Demond Wilson isn't just Lamont Sanford from Sanford and Son. He's had a full life with arcs no one talks about. Born in 1946 in Georgia, he started performing on Broadway at age 4 and danced in the Apollo Theater by 12. He also studied ballet and tap, so he's always been physically disciplined and artistic. before sitcom fame even hit him. When he was a teen, his appendix burst and almost killed him. He vowed to serve God after surviving, and by the mid-60s, he was in the U.S. Army's 4th Infantry Division in Vietnam. He came home wounded and earned a Purple Heart. That kind of early adversity shaped his grit and grounded him tightly. After returning, he studied theater, performed, and then got cast on Sanford and Son as Lamont in 1972. He stuck with the show even when Red Fox left in 1974, and when Fox walked off, Wilson stepped up, holding things together for the series until 1977. Most fans don't know he left mainstream acting in 1985 to become a full-time minister. He's been a Christian evangelist since then, writing books about faith and the dangers of New Age ideas. He's also written children's books and released a memoir called Second Banana in 2009, detailing behind-the-scenes truths from his TV years. Demond is married since 1974 to model Cicely Johnston, has 6 kids, and still writes and plays roles in faith-based projects. He appears in TBN's Praise the Lord and supports evangelist Clifton Davis too. Essentially, his daily routine is faith, family, writing, speaking, and speaking some more. That keeps him grounded, calm, and physically upright at age 78. Still with me? Because the next one is the woman who personally picked Regina King for her first role, and she's still working at 94. 13. Marla Gibbs.
Do you have to eat while you're working?
Don't worry, I can do 2 things at the same time.
I don't want you to do 2 things at the same time.
Okay, you're the boss.
Marla Gibbs is best known for playing Florence on The Jeffersons and Mary on 227, but there's so much more about her life that doesn't get much attention. Born in Chicago in 1931, she didn't rush into acting. She tried real-world jobs first, like working as a reservations agent for United Airlines while doing theater on the side. She only started acting full-time once she was in her 40s, which is pretty cool. It shows it's never too late. Marla had ambitions beyond comedy. Not only did she act, but she also became a producer and singer. In the 80s, she even owned a jazz club in LA called Marla's Memory Lane Jazz and Supper Club, and she released albums too. She was running businesses, performing, singing. Talk about multitasking. She later opened a theater academy, although it ran into financial trouble by 1997. It must have been tough to see something you built struggle like that, but she kept pouring energy into creative stuff. For fitness and health, there's no flashy workout plan or detox tea. In 2025, what stands out is that she's still active at age 94 and has even been honored twice this year at film festivals. She stays on her feet through appearances, interviews, and occasional roles, like her recurring spot on Days of Our Lives. All that showing up and public smiling takes energy, and she's got it. One lesser-known story is that when 227 was cast, she personally campaigned for Regina King to play her daughter, arguing she looked right for the role. In 2024, she shared stories of nearly 50 years in the business during a library talk in Wilmington. That's what keeps her looking good, feeling good, and showing up at nearly 95 years old. 14. Danny Glover.
Read 'em and weep. What do you do, sleep with that thing on your pillow?
I would if I slept.
Step back, baby.
Danny Glover may be best known for Lethal Weapon, but behind that is a real life full of cool, little-known details. And even at 78, people say he moves like he's 20. One serious little-known thing is he had epilepsy when he was younger and hasn't had a seizure since he turned 35. That's huge, because managing that likely required discipline and good health habits even before treatment existed as it does now. Another thing few people know, early in his career, he worked in city government in San Francisco on community development. It was after leaving that job that he went full-time into theater. That kind of public service mindset stuck with him. He later co-founded Roby Theater Company in 1994 to highlight black stories. Physical fitness for Danny isn't about gym selfies, it's tied to continuous activity. He's been traveling to conventions, doing panels, attending film festivals, and even marching in protests. These take energy. A recent red carpet appearance showed him stepping with ease and shape. Plus, remembering that iconic "too old for this shit" scene at 41 reminds us he wasn't bluffing. He keeps moving. He also stays socially engaged. He accepted a chieftaincy title in Nigeria in 2009, is a UN Goodwill Ambassador, and is involved in labor rights actions like Occupy Oakland. Those public appearances aren't easy. When you're passionate enough to talk on global stages and at protests, you have to stay fit enough for travel and stamina. 15. Glynn Turman.
You and I have nothing in common. I may be some dirt-dumb nigga from Podunk, but at least I'm making something of myself. You're the same hateful little man as you started out as. Without diving, you're nothing.
Glynn Turman has been shining for over 6 decades, but there's a lot about him that most people don't know. Born in New York City in 1947, he jumped into acting at just 12 years old, landing a key role in the original Broadway production of A Raisin in the Sun, acting alongside Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee. But what's not as well known is that Glynn didn't stop at acting. He also became a director, writer, and producer, bringing his creative vision to shows like The Parenthood, Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, and A Different World. This behind-the-scenes work shows how curious and hands-on he is with all parts of storytelling. One of the coolest things you probably didn't hear is that Glynn is a true outdoorsman. He's a former rodeo rider and horseman who runs a ranch north of Los Angeles, where he raises horses and finds peace riding through the hills. He explained how saddling up and heading into nature helps clear his mind after pressing roles, like playing Mose Wright in Women of the Movement, a heavy story about Emmett Till's murder, so powerful it stuck with him long after filming wrapped. And yes, at 78, he's still riding strong enough to make his Hollywood Walk of Fame entrance on horseback in July 2025. That's some serious cowboy energy and exercise. Speaking of exercise, Glynn skips fancy gym selfies. Instead, he gets real strength and fitness by working on his ranch, lifting grain bales, hopping on and off tractors, and managing chores. He joked that occasionally he feels spunky enough to drop and do a few push-ups, just enough to keep limber. Plus, he picked up golf, even though he laughs that it frustrates him more than it relaxes him. But it still gives him chances to walk through parks and stay active. Another surprising chapter is his music journey. Glynn had a piano in his living room for years that nobody touched until he had to play piano for the stage revival of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. He took lessons from jazz greats like Billy Mitchell and Branford Marsalis, and now says he's pretty handy on the keyboard, even bringing a small one on location. That new creative side gives him a mental boost and fresh challenge. 2 things that keep him feeling young and curious. Beyond creativity and activity, Glynn's still basically working nonstop. He just landed a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on July 10th, 2025, and he wasn't just standing there, he rode in for the big moment. He's appeared in modern hits like Paradise, 2025, How to Get Away with Murder, Queen Sugar, and more. Even now, he's acting, directing, riding horses, playing piano, and finding calm in the saddle. Who's your favorite? Drop their name in the comments. Let's give these icons their flowers while they're still here. Hit that like button if you learned something new. And subscribe because we've got even more wild celebrity stories coming your way. Real people, real history, real life superpowers.